Prosecutors made their closing arguments Friday in the Harvey Weinstein trial. Prosecutor Joan Illuzzi argued the disgraced Hollywood mogul thought he was so powerful he could get away with treating actresses as, quote, complete disposables. Weinstein is charged with raping a woman in a hotel room in March 2013 and forcibly performing a sex act on another woman in 2006. He could face life in prison if convicted. Nikki Batiste has the latest on the trial.
During prosecutor Joan Illuzzi's closing argument today, Hollywood tycoon Harvey Weinstein fidgeted and appeared agitated. Illuzzi called Weinstein a predator and master of his universe who viewed his victims as ants he could step on. She reminded the jury that star witness Annabella Sciorra testified Weinstein raped her, even as she was punching him, kicking him, just trying to get him away from her. Alleged victim Miriam Haley says she told the media mogul no, no, no as he forced oral sex on her in 2006. During the defense closing argument, lawyer Donna Rotuno argued that prosecutors created an alternate universe that strips adult women of common sense, autonomy, and responsibility.
These are people that made choices. They continue to make choices.
Illuzzi fired back today. When an adult goes to somebody else's hotel room, is the only reason they're going up there for a sexual encounter? There are no blurred lines here. This is a crime and a wanton disregard of other people. Now it's up to the jury.
The prosecution needs 12 to convict. The defense only needs 1 for a hung jury, and that's definitely a defense victory.
The jury of 7 men and 5 women will begin deliberating Tuesday. If convicted, Harvey Weinstein faces life in prison. He will have a second trial in Los Angeles where he's also charged with rape. Nikki Batiste, CBS News, New York.
For more on this, attorney and host of the Law and Crime Network, Jesse Weber, joins us now. Jesse, great to see you. So you were in the courtroom when the prosecution gave its closing argument. Can you describe the atmosphere in the courtroom?
It was just like it was yesterday with the defense's closing, extremely tense. Packed courtroom, everybody was waiting, and she delivered, Prosecutor Illuzzi, a fiery closing argument where she basically said that this is a guy who uses tricks and surprises to isolate these women and assault them, and tricks and surprises can never be consent. What stuck out for me more than anything was the ability to defend these women's actions, because that's what's being put in a spotlight here is why did they stay in contact with him? Why did they go to his hotel room in the first place? And the thing that was very powerful, and I think it was also powerful to the jury, is when Prosecutor Illuzzi said that these are adult women, and just because you go to a man's hotel room, just because you go to have a drink with him, just because you go to his apartment, doesn't mean you're looking for sex, and it doesn't mean that you're asking to be sexually assaulted. So a lot of today was responding to what happened yesterday with Donna Rotuno's closing argument, and I think that was obviously an advantage for the prosecution.
And did you look at Weinstein, how he was receiving this as he heard Illuzzi's closing argument? Yeah,
unlike yesterday where he was carefully watching Donna Rotuno delivering the closing argument, he kept his head down at points. I saw him shake his head at a point, just really didn't want to acknowledge what was being said about him. I mean, he was there for about 2.5 hours to 3 hours of just a beatdown of him being called a violent rapist. So there was not much more he could have done than be in that situation.
Right. And of course, the prosecution got the final word. That's typical, correct, in these sorts of cases,
or
not?
Yes. Well, here's the thing. In most cases, the prosecution delivers their closing argument, then the defense, then the prosecution has an option of delivering rebuttal closing. Here, New York's strange. Defense goes first, then the prosecution. They get the final word now. After this long weekend, remember, the last thing that they're going to hear before going into this long weekend is the prosecution. The prosecution had an advantage to respond to the defense. Defense didn't have that option, so you have to think it's an advantage for the prosecution.
What did you think of the defense's closing argument that you heard on Thursday?
I think that this case, and it was articulated very well from Donna Rotuno, is riddled with doubt. The question is it reasonable doubt, and did the prosecution prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt? The Jessica Mann account is, in my opinion, the weaker of the charges for the prosecution, whether it's her behavior or emails that seem to suggest a consensual relationship. Donna Rotuno made it very clear that even if you accept what all the version of events, what happened in that hotel room, it doesn't even rise to the level of a rape, given the fact that she could have left. There was no physical force. Miriam Haley, which I believe is the stronger case, the defense did a fantastic job of saying she really went to his hotel room alone after really seemingly horrible events with him, alone at night to mend a professional relationship. Annabella Shore, who's this additional count, you're talking about something from 27 years ago. There are tons of gaps, and today, Prosecutor Luzzi had to fill in those gaps with a lot of assumptions and guesses and theories about what happened. So I think Donna Rotunno did a fantastic job and really raised that doubt for the jury.
And Weinstein did not testify at his own trial, which is typical, correct, in these sorts of cases. But does that help or hurt him in the eyes of the jury?
We were waiting to see what was going to happen. He goes into this side room. We thought that he might take the stand, which would have been a disaster for him. Let's just call it what it is. A defendant testifying usually doesn't work out so well. Maybe in a self-defense case, not this kind of case. This is a guy who's a storyteller. This is a guy who definitely wants to give his opinion, tell his side of the story because he's being hit from in the media by prosecution. He chose not to do it. Judah Engelmeyer, who's his PR person, says that he wants to tell his story,
so you think
but this is not the right
forum. It was hard for him to hold back, you think?
Look, it's his choice at the end of the day, but
right.
His attorneys, if I was in that room, were telling him, don't go on that stand. It's not going to work out well for you.
Right. All right, so looking back, you've been in this courtroom for a long time now, Jesse. What are some of the key moments that stand out to you?
Whether, you talk about the judge being comical or rude at points, whether you're looking at the jury, I think the 6 women that testified were absolutely incredible. They gave this really detailed, horrific accounts of what happened. But the defense with their memory expert really stood out about how something can feel like a memory. Someone might feel that they were sexually assaulted or something bad happened, but memories get distorted. Memories get contaminated over time by what they hear from the media, therapists, friends. You can relabel an event that you think is a memory, but it's not accurate. That stood out to me.
Yeah, but how does that square against if the victim told friends and family about the event at the time?
Right. If they told it at the time, that seems to suggest that, what really happened, because that's what you're going to remember at the point. But the majority of these accusers kept the stories to themselves. They didn't speak out. And maybe they didn't give the full story. I mean, Annabella Shore said at the time she didn't feel that it was a rape. But Rosie Perez, who she allegedly told this to, put 2 and 2 together. So a lot of these women, the reason they're being put under a skeptical light is they came out after 2017. They didn't come out at the time. And should that be used against them or should they not be used against them? What's a rape myth? What's not? Do you want to hold it against them that they didn't report immediately, that they didn't tell their stories, they might have forgotten details? It's not for me to decide. It's for the jury to decide what the right thing is.
And we will see when they do. Jesse Weber, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.